We have been flooded for 48 hours with the idea that the Trump-Musk blowup is a big-time ego cage match between two titans with potential earth-shattering political and national security consequences. The media is painting this as a personal feud that could derail Trump's agenda, and Democrats are frantically hoping that Elon will come back to their fold. But that's not really what's happening here. This isn't about egos, sex, or drugs. Musk is addicted to Milton Friedman and libertarianism. Donald Trump's new Republican Party is the complete opposite of that. It's based on the physical laws of economic growth, not monetary theory. That's the fundamental conflict. It's being played by forces hostile to both the president and the well being of Elon Musk. And after he took down major parts of the intelligence community by buying Twitter and through Doge, they have targeted him. They have profiled him. This is Barbara Boyd with your Saturday Wrap. I've been fighting our British run national security state for over 50 years. I've seen how they create and use false belief systems and personal flaws to manipulate and deceive their targets. And I can almost smell them when they're acting behind the scenes to shape events. Today, I'm going to show you the three economic ideas contending for your future, reveal how libertarianism was invented by the British Empire's economic warfare unit to destroy nations and productive geniuses like Elon Musk, and reveal how Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump keep refusing to fall for their games and be drawn into a new world war. Three economic ideas are contending right now for your future. The libertarian ideas of Milton Friedman and his Chicago boys, which dominate a huge part of the old Republican Party, the radical Keynesian ideas of massive government funding and overreach favored by Democrats, and Trump's American System platform in his new Republican Party, which is completely revolutionary and transformative. The first two ideas sent us on the path of economic destruction since August of 1971, when Milton Friedman helped convince Richard Nixon to destroy the Bretton Woods gold reserve system. That was followed by the same shock therapies Friedman applied to Chile on behalf of Pinochet's dictatorship, turning the once great U.S. manufacturing and industrial powerhouse, which was his next target, into a deindustrialized wasteland. They all called it the post-industrial society. That is, von Hayek and Friedman. Since then, there has not been much difference between democratic Keynesians and old-style conservative Republicans on economic policy. There were huge differences on hot-button cultural issues, but not on the outsourced consumer economy, which replaced the American one. It throws huge amounts of wealth to Wall Street and the City of London and calls that the invisible hand, while leaving the rest of us competing for low-wage gig jobs. By contrast, Trump's American system ideas are about the physics of sustained economic growth. Hamilton invented it to build America after the Revolutionary War bankrupted us. Lincoln used it to win the Civil War. FDR's war mobilization, uniting government and private business in a joint mission, created the explosive growth created in a few short years, which is documented in the book Freedom's Forge. It is the only thing that will get us out of 50 years of deindustrialization and predatory financialization. It is Trump's platform. It measures itself by the productivity, creativity, and prosperity of the labor force, how much the scientific and technological productivity of labor advances from one generation to the next. As Hamilton said, sustained economic growth wipes out any debt incurred to finance that growth. And that's the purpose of any debt, financing growth, actual growth. While Trump's genuine love of the forgotten American men and women is his movement's very foundation, many libertarians suffer a deficit here. And while they think Friedman and von Hayek are somehow chic conservative rebels, they don't even know the sordid history of their idols. Both were agents of the secretive Mont Pelerin Society of Switzerland and London, rightfully called the Chief Economic Warfare Unit of the British Crown. Founded in 1947, Mount Pelerin included both Friedrich von Hayek and Sir Karl Popper, whose most famous student is George Soros, and it also included Milton Friedman. Sir Henry Drayton, who financed the British Institute for Economic Affairs, managed the Queen's finances. Their mission? Deconstruct nation states back to feudal communities under world federalist government. They imposed shock therapies on targeted economies, looting countries to the bone for the old European oligarchs and the massive multinational corporations who sponsor them. Friedman did this in Chile, admitting that the population wouldn't have tolerated his shock austerity without Pinochet's brutal dictatorship backing him up. Not incidentally, he was also a fan of Hitler's finance minister, Hjalmar Schacht. He fought to collapse a stable Bretton Woods system in 1971, beginning our industrial collapse and using the same shock therapy methods he pioneered in Chile to advise on how to follow up that decoupling. Elon Musk, like Thomas Massie, Chip Roy, and Rand Paul, and others lined up against the president's reconciliation bill, are all libertarians. Musk, Maskey, and Roy supported Ron DeSantis in 2024, while Paul simply abstained. They attacked Trump's big, beautiful bill, which legislates his campaign promises on immigration and tax policy, because they want to cut the budget ahead of any other national priority. Their libertarian ideology can't create economic growth, since it was founded to destroy it. Now, Musk is very different than these mediocre congressmen. He is a genius, dedicated to putting the human race on Mars and inventing lots of other things in the process. He helped elect Trump way before he supported him or gave him money when he opened up Twitter from censorship and allowed people to say what they thought. His Doge took out USAID, defunded the National Endowment for Democracy, and destabilized other key security state players. They then attacked his companies and plotted to end his life. His relationship with Trump could have survived that, but he still has that British invader in his otherwise American brain known as libertarianism. Now, the other major story this week involves what Putin will do to retaliate for Ukraine's attack on Russia's nuclear fleet, the attack which was branded Operation Spider's Web. After speaking for an hour and a half with President Trump, Putin launched a limited but brutal military retaliation on Ukraine on Thursday night, and it's continuing. But Putin also made a huge deal during the same time period of attacking the British Council, an NGO cognitive warfare machine recruiting spies and terrorists and destabilizing nations since World War II. He used his intelligence agency to warn other countries against the British Council, calling them a global spider's web, since they aim to recruit young people, subvert national cultures, and sow internal dissent and chaos. The use of both spiderweb monikers in this counterattack makes very clear that the Russians blame the British for the attack. They didn't fall for the seditious actions of Lindsey Graham, David Petraeus, and Mike Pompeo, who all traveled to Ukraine to urge them to do bold and reckless things and keep fighting right before Ukraine's attack, which crossed the Russian red line on a nuclear attack. That sedition by Graham, Petraeus, and Pompeo was intended to insinuate to Russia that the United States was behind this insane attack. It was intended to undermine President Trump and draw us into open war against Russia. To me, it seems very clear that both Putin and Trump understand the real enemy here and how they operate. They also understand that the fundamental battlefield is the human mind. The same British stink surrounding Friedrich von Hayek and Milton Friedman permeates Operation Spiderweb. The British investigator, Kit Clarenberg, already exposed the British sourcing of this attack back in November on the website Grey Zone. He used leaked documents to show that the British military's Project Alchemy is designed to turn the war into hybrid terrorism against Russia, since neither Ukraine or NATO can defeat Russia if the U.S. stops participating. The British have been training and deploying Ukrainians for sustained terrorism against Russia since the war began. Lindsey Graham, David Petraeus, and Mike Pompeo were just duped and seditious props in this version of the great game. So let's pull back and see the real picture. The so-called Trump versus Musk feud is not about personalities, Twitter spats, or even the next election. It's about a war of ideas, one that's been raging for decades, quietly shaping the fate of nations and the lives of every American. It's also about Musk's contribution to destabilizing the security state. On the one side, you have the British Empire's economic warfare machine using libertarian dogma and cognitive warfare to keep us divided, distracted, and deindustrialized. On the other, you have Trump's American system, rooted in the physical laws of progress, the dignity of labor, and the creative power of the human mind. Elon Musk, for all his genius and vision, is just the latest high-profile target in a much older game. Putin's statesmanship, Trump's war for the Republic, and the British interventions on both are new chapters in global war targeting our country and your mind. Their weapon is systematic false beliefs. The antidote is truth about our history, our enemies, and our power to change the future. Now, this week, we made great leaps in our growth, as you can see from the number of views both me and Susan received for these updates. We also began to get the type of finances we need to expand. If you haven't already, go to the Promethean Action website and subscribe. Help us expand by making a contribution. We depend on you both for the support you give us in the comments, that drives us to keep on trucking, but we also need your financial support to expand to a daily format. I hope you'll find a means to contribute. As always, I'll be back on Monday to scout out the next layer of the game for you. Until then, stay sharp, stay skeptical, spread the word, and organize others. And keep fighting to discover and live the truth. Thanks very much for listening.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.